So how can Europe tackle its perceived gap in digital and AI? So to answer this question, uh, let me frame it in terms of what the perceived advantages are of the leaders, in this case being U.S. and China. So first of all, both U.S. and China are perceived to have large uh, single markets, right? So to the extent that Europe is also a single market, then that's a positive. But the reality, if you talk to anyone in the field, is that Europe is actually a series of different local markets. So that's a disadvantage. So I think whatever they can do to make that market more homogeneous, so on the regulatory side and other aspects, that will go a long way. And then the other aspect of having a large market is having access to large pools of data. And we all know that these days the current generation of AI technologies is very dependent on having access to large pools of data. So there, I think the story is a slightly more positive if the individual European countries can organize themselves. So, for example, the UK has access to large healthcare data via the NHS. And then what else? So competition in both U.S. and China is quite intense, which means that companies have to move fast. So I'm not sure exactly how Europe can counteract that, other than to kind of maybe foster the same kind of spirit that the Israelis have. So Israel, as many of you know, is also a small market of 8 million people, and yet they have a reputation for producing many, many world-class startups. And one of the reasons is that Israeli startups aim for the wider international market from the get-go. So most of them aim for the U.S. market from day one. So maybe to the extent that European startups can aim bigger rather than confine themselves to their domestic market, that will go a long way.